Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. Hi, Farah. Good afternoon. Okay, so what the meeting first? Then you then share the screen. Okay, so we start lah. Okay, so last week we have learned about we have started our software process model, chapter 2. And then last week we have learned about waterfall model. So I hope you all still can understand, can remember what is how the waterfall model works. Okay, so if you remember, it is like a waterfall lah. After one phase finish, and then you can then you can continue with the second phase. But if phase one still not finished, you cannot continue. Okay, so who remember what is the drawbacks of waterfall? The disadvantages of waterfall. Can go back or cannot go back? Yes, very correct. Okay, so one of the disadvantages of waterfall is you cannot go back. So if you want to change some requirement, it is nearly impossible to go back to change, because if you go back at the first stage, which is to change the requirement, you will have to also change your design, your analysis, your implementation, all need to be changed again. So it is not flexible lah. Waterfall is really not flexible. And then what kind of software that do you all remember either waterfall can what type of software that we can develop using waterfall? Who remember? Small project, small business. Else? Sometimes it lorries can lah lorries doesn't involve a lot of cost. um yeah, okay, doesn't involve a lot of cost. Yes. Else? Is there anything more? The important thing hasn't been answered yet. The most important feature of a software that we can develop using waterfall still haven't mentioned yet. None of you have mentioned about that yet. Documentation. And yeah, waterfall is a documentation process, meaning each of the phase you will need to come up with a documentation, but it doesn't tell what kind of software that we can develop using waterfall. Mission critical. Mission critical, Wong? What do you mean by mission critical? Hi, Kelvin. Okay, so now I am asking Kelvin, what type of software that we can develop using waterfall? Maybe Kelvin also can answer. Do you remember, Kelvin? What type of software that we can develop using waterfall? Because waterfall, as we all have already learned, it is not flexible. If there are any changes, it's very hard to go back and change. And then,
Just do when you want to code a robot like that.
pardon?
Coding a robot.
Coding a robot. Yeah, I think your answer is close already. How about the DSF student last time? Do you remember the DSF paper? I like Celine for Elsa. Yeah, I forgot my list. Where's my list? This one. This is my list. Daniel, Ivan, Celine, Wong also lah. Mission critical, Wong. How about the DSF? Can you remember what type of software that we can develop using waterfall? Some of your friends already said low requirement. Okay, Russell said low requirement. Low requirement POS system. Ivan said POS system. Okay, so Ivan, what is the feature of the POS system that you think it is so suitable for us to use waterfall model? Celine also, Celine and Daniel. Low requirement, said Russell. Low requirement. I think close already lah. Low requirement. I will tell later why. How about Shark? What do you think? Software, the feature of the software that, what kind of software that we can use waterfall to develop it? Yeah, I even said POS system, but we need to know why POS system. What is the feature in the POS system that you think makes it enable us to use a waterfall model? Okay, so like inventory management. No ambiguous requirement. Yes, Xiu Ting Chin, Celine. Okay, so yes. Most important, I think Celine already mentioned the most one of the most important reason lah. What type of software that we can no ambiguous requirement, meaning to say that we are really clear about the requirement from the user, because the main point of waterfall is it's very hard to change the system if there are any requirement change in the future. So if we want to develop a software using waterfall, we really need to make sure that the software really have a clear requirement and fixed requirement, which is no ambiguous requirement lah, like what Celine said. Okay, so like POS system and inventory management, like Ivan said just now is maybe a POS system, because like I said just now, we can use waterfall model for a system that have a really clear requirement, no ambiguous requirement, meaning the same lah, no ambiguous and really clear requirement. And another one is fixed. Fixed meaning having fixed calculate product kan. You can find a system, a POS system in any shop. Okay, it doesn't matter what type of product it sells, as long as POS system purpose is to calculate the product. Okay, so the process of calculating the product, adding all of the total of the product, and then giving receiving money from the client, and then we give the balance. All of that process usually similar for all type of POS system, right? So that's mean it have a fixed requirement, meaning people have been doing that process over the years, and then that process, we can say that maybe it will have no change in the future, because for POS system, usually memang people will go buy, and then we need to give the money, and then give balance, and then yeah, so the process is fixed, right? We've been using POS systems since long time ago, and then the process usually not change. So for that kind of software, yes, because it has a clear requirement and fixed process. Okay, so like Kelvin said just now also, he said something that in robot, yeah, because I think what Kelvin meant is embedded software. Okay, so software that operating a hardware. Okay, so for example, washing machine. Okay, so we know that from the washing machine process is fixed from long time ago until now. We know that there will be a spin process, there will be spin, wash, drain. Okay, so that process is fixed. Like traffic light. So we embed some software in the traffic light. We know that the function of the traffic light is just to make the lamp green, orange, orange, and red. Okay, so that is fixed, right? Okay, so I hope you guys remember lah. Huh? Okay, so correct ka? Understand ka? What type of software that we can create using waterfall? Okay, so do you have any questions before we proceed to the prototype? Because last time we have cover prototype until half lah. This is important because later when you maybe there will be questions that asking what type of software for this model, what model, okay? So you really need to understand lah. Okay, guys? If okay, then raise your hand. Raise your hand using the raise hand feature. Okay lah. Okay, so a software that, I will repeat again, a software that have clear requirement or no ambiguous requirement, fixed process that you think that it will not change even in the future for maybe 10 years in the future, it will not change. In the calculator also, okay, one of the example is calculator, traffic light, machine, whatever machine process lah, usually in like washing machine. Okay, so we proceed to the prototyping. Last time we have covered until okay. Before that, Russell also said low requirement. If it has a low requirement, but the possibility of the requirement will change in the future is high, still cannot also, Russell. Okay, Russell? And then some student also said maybe a small software or small business, we still rely to the requirement. Either requirement can be changed in the future or not. So if not and it is fixed, then okay. So even though it is a big company, but it has a fixed process and the requirement maybe not change in the future. We know that it will not change in the future, then still okay, even though it is a big business. So the key is relying on the requirement. Either it is easily to change or not. Okay, so the prototyping model we have learned up until here how how each phases will come out with its deliverable. So I remember we have covered this. All of this process will come out with all of this deliverable. In this established prototype objective, you will come out with prototyping plan after this process. And then lastly, until to evaluate the prototype, we will come out with the evaluation report after this process. So now we will learn how to create the prototype. Okay, so prototype model can be created using this example, this technology. Okay, so maybe dynamic high-level language development or fourth generation languages or prototype construction from reusable component or visual programming language or internet-based prototyping. You may ask me, what are all of these? These are actually the technology that we can use to develop a prototyping model. So to be honest, myself also never used this dynamic high-level language development, fourth generation language. I think the last three at the bottom, I can know lah what is that. Okay, so internet-based prototyping, maybe you can find any tools on the internet that enable you to create your prototyping. There's a lot, but I forgot the name because previously I have used one tools from the internet that enable you to create, for example, a screen enable you to create the interface, and then it will makes you to proceed from one interface to the other interface. So that is one of the tools that you can use to develop your prototype, which is internet-based prototyping. You all maybe you can find later Google whatever tools in the internet that can be used. Okay, so after that, visual programming language. So this visual programming language, maybe you can use this language to create your prototype. It doesn't need to be very complete, but enough for you to create your interface of your system. And then after that, prototype construction from reusable component. So this one, maybe if your company previously have developed some software that is similar to your future company, your future client, and then you have the same component from the software that you have developed for your previous client. So you can reuse that component to create another prototype for your future client lah. Okay, so that is what it means by prototype construction from reusable component. Okay, so you can find out about the two top here, dynamic high level language development and fourth generation language. Is anybody of you here have used any of these tools? Ada? No? No. Okay. Farah said, maybe ada nih kan, Farah? Oh, VP. Oh, visual programming. Are you referring? Okay, it's okay lah. Visual programming lah, right? Okay. There are some simple, easy programming lah, easy tools like Visual Basic lah. Oh, Elvin have used SQL. So can it create a interface, Elvin, for generation language for SQL? Because I also never use it. Can it deal? Ya itulah. I know data SQL is only deal with database. But I am also not very sure how SQL can be used in you developing the prototype lah. Is Visual Studio VP? I think yeah. Visual Studio. I think visual programming is referring to the Visual Basic lah. Let me search first lah. I think the visual programming is the higher name of, like, the example of visual programming is the Visual Basic lah, because it says here the visual programming is a program that you can create using elements graphically, meaning you can drag and drop. So the example of it is the Visual Basic lah. The Visual Basic was in Visual Studio. Okay, yeah. So have you all learned about Visual Basic previously? I think that is the easiest programming language lah, because we usually will just drag and drop, right? Only just some of the when we click, we just use some coding behind it. Okay, so visual programming is a very it can be used as a prototyping model. So we proceed. Okay, so prototyping model can be categorized into two types of two subtype of prototyping model, which is first is throwaway and the second is the evolutionary. Okay, so the difference between these two is actually relies on its name. You can directly can think what is the difference between these two just by looking at its name. Okay, so throwaway prototyping, meaning you create the prototype, but your purpose to create the prototype is to validate or derive the system requirement. Okay, so you create the prototype system just to get the system requirement, and it will be discarded or it will be thrown away. So that's why I said the difference is you can see directly from its name, because the name of throwaway is throwaway, you can throw that prototype after you get your system requirement. Yes, this possible. Another name of it, this possible. Okay, so after you do the prototype, you show it to the client, and then the client give their feedback, and then they'll give their feedback, and then they give their requirement lah. Okay, because they already seen your prototype, and then they they can think clearly what they want after they see your prototype. Okay, so and then after that they give feedback to you what they want, what they actually want based on the prototype that you show them, and then after that you can throw away the prototype. Okay, so difference with the evolutionary, meaning to say that when you create an evolutionary prototype, you will make your first prototype as your first draft of the system. You didn't throw it away. Instead, you will make your first prototype as your first system, and then you will improve your prototype to be a working system. But you start from your prototype. Okay? So clear the differences?
Okay.
Okay. So like I said, the names of the type of this prototype can already explain what is the difference between these two types. Okay, so but the problem for the evolutionary is maybe the structure can be corrupted because you started from something that are not robust enough. Okay, so when you do your prototype, usually you will design it in a short time. So maybe your design is not robust enough to be a very robust system later. Okay, so that's why when you when you evolve that prototype, maybe the structure of your system is not really good, or it can be corrupted later because you evolve from something that is not really have a good quality. Okay, so we proceed. So these are the differences between the throwaway and evolutionary prototyping. Okay, so the reason for the prototype, the reason for you to do the prototype is to get or to outline the requirement. But the product or the last product of your prototype will be different. Like I said just now, so from the evolutionary prototyping, you will end up with delivered system because you use the prototype as the first draft of the system and you evolve from it. But for the throwaway prototyping, you will throw it away, but what you will get is the executable prototype and the system specification. At the end, you will get your executable prototype, but you will discard it later, and system specifications, because your purpose, the main purpose of your throwaway prototyping is to get you and your client clear whatever the system requirement for that system. Okay, so this is because this prototyping is really useful for a system that if you have a client that don't really know what they want. Okay, so they don't know how actually I mean they said I want a system that can make our life easier, that can help our process in this company faster. But they don't know how to transform it into a system. They don't know what function the system should have, how the interface, how it, who will use it. Okay, so but they know they know their goal lah, to make their life easier, but they don't know how. They never use any system previously that they can use as a reference. Okay, so that's why we can use the prototype. Okay, so and then this another difference between throwaway and evolutionary prototype. So when you want to do a throwaway prototyping, you should start with the parts that you understand least. Okay, so because the purpose of this throwaway prototyping is to get a clear requirement from the client, right? So that's why for throwaway prototyping, you should start from the part that you paling tidak faham. That's why you need to develop the parts you understand the least. Okay, so because that part will because throwaway prototyping will make you understand that unclear part to be clear. So that's why you need to start with the part that you really don't understand. But for the evolutionary prototyping, it is really contradict with the throwaway prototyping, because you have to start the parts that you understand the best. Okay, who knows why? Why evolutionary prototyping should start with the parts that we understand the best? Yes, I want to ask you all, because you are in degree already. I think your idea maybe your idea is better. Save time. Okay juga. Yes, boleh. But that is not the main point. Okay, so any other? Yes, it can save time. Okay, so I repeat my questions again. So why evolutionary prototyping, we should start with the parts that we understand the best. But for the throwaway prototyping, we start with the parts that we really don't understand. Minimize risk, build foundation faster. I think the closest answer is from Russell. Daniel also can, but the closest one is Russell. Build foundation faster. Okay, so do you remember the main difference between the evolutionary and prototype? It is because the evolutionary prototyping, the first prototype, yes, for the evolutionary prototyping, the first prototype that you show to your client is your first draft. So that means you have to develop the foundation of your software first, because it will be first draft of your system. Okay, so Noel said, if start with hardest part, the software will take time because need to repeatedly enhance the software. But here it says not the hardest part. It says here to develop the parts that you understand the best. It is not the hardest part. Okay, so if start with the hardest part, the software will take time because, okay, so like I said just now, why you need to develop the parts that you understand the best when you are using the evolutionary prototyping is because you want to make your first prototype to be your first draft of the system, meaning you want to build a foundation for your system. And then that first start from the first foundation of your system or first draft of your prototype, then you can evolve from there. But it is your first foundation. You will not change it later. You change, but you will use it as the best. So that's why you should develop the parts that you understand the best so that the foundation of your system will not change a lot. Okay, will not change a lot when it evolves in the future, because it is your first draft of your system, first version of your system. Okay, so that's why you are advised to develop the best part, the parts that you understand the best first. Okay, any other argument? Yeah, so like, okay, so this is maybe out of slide questions. Okay, so if I have one, if I want to develop a software, that software is inventory software. So it doesn't matter what type of item it inventorized. Let's say lah, it inventorize stuff in a company. There's a stuff. No lah, not stuff lah. A product lah. Maybe you have a one retail shop, and then that retail shop, they want to inventorize all of the product inside their retail shop. Okay, so the name of the software is a retail inventory system. Let's say lah, retail inventory system. And then the client wants three functions in that system, which is first inventory module, meaning the module that can accept all of the data from the client. Data, I mean the module that enable the client or the user to inventorize all of the product inside its retail, their retail shop. All the Milo, Maggi, all can come in lah, can be inventorized in that module. And then the second module is a report module. And then the third module is the search module. Report module meaning you want to create any report from all the inventorized data. And then research is for you to research a specific item lah. Okay, so among all of that, among all the three modules, which do you think you should develop first? When you are, let's say you want to use evolutionary prototyping. Among the three modules, inventory, report, and searching module, which module do you think you want to develop first? for your evolutionary prototyping model. Searching module. Okay, Noel said searching module. Report module, Farah. Russell also said searching. Why? Because you understand searching the most lah, right? Okay, Farah said report. Because you all understand the searching functions the best. Is that the reason? Yes. Okay, so yeah, based on if you use evolutionary prototyping, because it suggests for you to create the best part, the part that you understand the best. So yes, based on this suggestion, then you can start with the searching module first. But okay lah. So you can start with the searching, but if you think logically, you cannot start with the searching lah. But if we follow this suggestion, then yes, you can start with the searching. But if you think logically, reporting and searching module only can be used when you have data, right? So the most important part actually the inventory part lah, because even the name of the system is retail inventory system, meaning the main point of the system is to inventorize data. But yeah, but based on this suggestion, you can do the searching first, because searching is the most part that you understand first. Even though you don't have the data, you still can do dummy data, right? You can still input some dummy data for you to start doing your function searching first or function report first, like Farah suggested. Okay, so yes, you start with the parts that you understand the best. It is the evolutionary prototyping. Okay, so why? Okay, so this why already I already asked lah. Okay, so like I said also, because we want to build a very robust prototype in a structured manner and constantly refine it. Okay, so agree about this? Agree and understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so we proceed. Okay, so minimize risk lah. I think someone also answer minimize risk previously. To Daniel said to minimize risk. Yes. Okay, so these are the benefits of prototyping. First, the misunderstanding between the software developer and user may be identified as the system functions are demonstrated. Okay, so all of the unconnected neuron from your client, when they cannot imagine pun what kind of system they want, can be cleared after they see your prototype. And then from there, they can comment whatever they want lah. Okay, so another benefit of prototyping is missing user service may be detected. So meaning to say that maybe previously none of your user or your client or even you as the software developer didn't notice that missing part. But by looking at the prototyping, someone or maybe your user or maybe you can see the missing part. Okay, so after that, software development staff may find incomplete and or inconsistent requirement as the prototype is developed. Okay, so something that you are unclear previously, or something you think that something missing in the system, but you don't know what. Okay, so after you do the prototyping, then the incomplete or the inconsistent requirement can be found. Okay, so after that, another benefits of the prototyping is difficult to use or confusing user service may identified and refined. Okay, so some maybe your user have some process that are so difficult. Okay, so by showing them the prototyping, you all can see clear process. Okay, or how to fix that difficulty. Okay, so after that, a working system, although incomplete, um, it is already available and quickly to demonstrate the feasibility and usefulness of the application to the management. Okay, so even though it is still incomplete, but you already can show your working system to the management. Okay, so it is really contradict with waterfall, where the user can only see their product or their software at the end of the stage of the software development. Okay, so the prototype serves as the basis for writing the specification for a production quality system. Okay, so if we are following the traditional software process like waterfall, you didn't see any prototype before you do the requirement. So all are just either you interview your client or you do observation of how they're doing their work. But by prototyping, by doing the prototyping, you can write your specification just based on the prototype because it is clear. Okay, so it clear. Okay, but these are the drawbacks of prototyping. First, planning, costing, and estimating a prototype project is outside the experience of many software project managers. Yeah, usually this prototyping, not many person or software engineer or your project manager have a good experience in doing prototyping because usually prototyping is not uh, because for prototyping there are no clear documentations or rule about that. So it is really unlike the waterfall. Waterfall is really clear what you should do in this. After this part, you should come out with document with software SRS. After that, you go to the design phase, and then in the design phase, you need to come out. You will come out with software design specification. After that, in the implementation, you know what you should do in the waterfall. But for prototyping, the way of working in prototyping is it is very flexible. So there are no fixed way of doing the prototyping. So um, there are no person. I mean. That there are no much person or software project manager that have experience in really implementing a prototyping. Even though they have, their way of prototyping may be different when they work in the from company one to company B. Okay, so that's why um, it says here planning, costing, and estimating prototyping is outside the experience because not all prototyping way is experienced by the software project manager or the software engineer or the software team. Okay, so procedure for change and configuration management may be unsuitable for controlling the rapid change inherent in prototyping. However, if there are no change management procedure, evaluation is difficult. Okay, so if you have learned about change and configuration management previously, so the way of the how we change and when there are changes in the software production, it should be handled by change and configuration management team. But if you are using prototyping, the procedure for change and configuration management team may be not suitable for the prototyping because because the prototyping changing very fast. Okay, so the changes in the prototyping is very rapid. So that's why the procedure for change and configuration management may be not suitable for prototyping. Because the change and configuration management process was developed to follow the traditional way of software development. Actually, this prototyping also considered as is the traditional also lah, because it was introduced long time ago. Okay, but still, not many company have implemented it if we compare with the waterfall. Okay, so managers may exert pressure on prototype evaluator to reach swift conclusion about the prototype. Excuse me. So this may result in inappropriate requirement. Okay, so the manager maybe will do some pressure and prototype to the prototype evaluator so that they can come into a conclusion about the prototype. Maybe yeah, they want to cepat-cepat to close the deals, right? So okay, so agree lah, they said to the prototype evaluator. So that's why maybe it can produce inappropriate requirement. Okay, so after that, customer demand few fix to it to become the working version. Okay, so when you do the prototyping, customer can always demand few fix or some short fix or short fix. So the short fix will require short time to do the fixing. Okay, so because of it is too short time, so robust evaluations may not be conducted, so it can resulting in a low quality prototyping produced. Okay, so after that, developers initially use familiar OS, algorithm, or etc., which are not appropriate but to demonstrate system capability only. But in the end, they forgot the reasons why they were inappropriate. Okay, so hence they did not use the Beta OS algorithm and etc. to develop the end product. Okay, so developer only wants to use familiar OS and algorithm because they don't want to waste a lot of time to develop the prototype. So they are using familiar OS and algorithm because it will usually create few error and then the prototype can be produced faster. After that, but because they are just using their familiar OS or algorithm, it makes them didn't have effort to change to the better OS or better algorithm. Okay, so the end product only developed using the familiar OS and algorithm of the software engineer. Okay, so the best product, the best quality product, or maybe yeah. So the client will only get not the best product lah, because maybe it is not updated, because usually the software programmer, when they are familiar with something, familiar with the OS or algorithm, it should be the updated punya lah, because they've been using it for a long time. So that's why they're familiar with the OS or with the algorithm, because they have been using it for a long time. So meaning to say that usually it is outdated. Okay, so they still use the updated way of working or develop the end user system, because that is the only way or the fastest way for the software engineer to develop the prototype. Okay, so far so good, or confused already?
Good.
Okay, so we proceed. Okay, so discussion. Common argument against prototyping is the cost may be too high. Why not build it cheap and fix it later? For example, modify a finished system to meet unperceived needs. So do you agree with such notion? So do you agree to build the prototype cheap and fix it later?
Depends.
Pardon, Noel?
Depends.
Depends. Depends on what?
Like how complex the software is.
Yeah, I cannot hear your voice clearly.
Like how complex the
How
software.
complex the software? Okay, so how about the other student? Noel said it depends on the how complex the software. I think correct lah what Noel think. It's okay. Before I comment, I will need your input. Russell, Daniel, Ivan, and Shaq. What else? In my opinion, I feel like I agree. Depend on the requirement of the system. Okay, Farah said depends on the requirement of the system. Noel said depends on the how complex the system is. Alvin said depends does the software suitable to develop in such a way. Okay, so Alvin said it depends on the software, either it is suitable to develop in such a way. Okay, Russell said depends on requirement and scheduling. Depends on the requirement and scheduling. Okay, yes, deadline and etc. Okay, so any other opinion? Lim, I don't know if Lim is here. I think I rarely heard something from you, Lim. Hey, Lim, is Lim here? Oh, okay, Jingming Lim, yes, you are here. What do you think, Lim? Why not we build it cheap and fix it later? Farah said if the software can be flexible to fix in the near future, then can use that statement. Yes, we'll have poor initial impression. Yes, Russell have a really valid argument lah, I think. time consuming depending on how complicated the system is. Yes. Cyberpunk. Come on, guys. I am old lady here. I don't know what is cyberpunk. I only know about Candy Crush. Oh, okay. So what was the game is about? Tembak-tembak kah? Or building a house? Oh, tembak-tembak. Okay. Okay, so new info for me, new knowledge, cyberpunk. So after it is updated, so it it become worse kah? Or it become not good already. Oh, it is public beta actually. So all of uh, the fan of the game preferring the previous way lah, the previous version. Wow, all of you play that game, kah? Cyberpunk. Ah, it was never good. But if it is not good, why? Why all of you know about that? It made a lot of promise. Is it free or paid? You bought for it? I mean, it is paid game. I very broken. Okay. So going back to our discussion. Okay, so for me, no, I think all of you have a valid idea lah. Okay, so like all of you said, it depends on various factors. Okay, so it says here, why not build it cheap and fix it later? Or for example, modify a finished system to meet unperceived needs. Okay, so for me, I think it is depends on either the existing system is available or not. If the software company just first time develop that kind of software, how they can find some existing system that can they use as a reference to fix or to develop the prototyping, right? Yeah, so it is depends on a lot of factor. Oh, hack already, source code leak. Wow, Kelvin, you hacked that cyber code? Cyber code ka? I forgot already. Cyberpunk. You already hacked ka? Hack it. Okay, so smarter people do it. Oh shit. You all can become smarter also better. You learn a lot of programming later, so you will. I didn't encourage you to become a bad hacker. I encourage you to become a good hacker. So this is recorded, huh? I encourage you to become a good hacker, meaning you don't hack any other software with a bad intention lah. Yeah, so so I will repeat again based on what you all have answered previously and based on my opinion also. I think it will depends on a lot of factor. We cannot do it just what it's this statement said lah, because um there are it will depends on a lot of factor. Like I said just now, maybe the finished or existing system the software company never had that kind of system previously, so they don't have any reference on how to do the system, and then build it cheap and fix it later. So I think from what tools that is already introduced previously, like the SQL lah, the visual programming lah, okay, so you all remember, I think that is already cheap. Okay, that is already cheap. So even though when you are using internet-based prototyping, that is already cheap because some of it is free. Okay, so some of it is already free. So we proceed. Still in the prototyping model. So when to use the prototyping model? Okay, so we should use prototyping model when we are not sure or unsure of the algorithm efficiency. And then unsure of HSI. Sorry, I forgot the full name of HSI. HCI. HCI. So I will get back to you all later. What is this HCI? Forgive me because I am forgetful, especially for something like this short form. Okay, so for the unsure of algorithm, we should use the prototyping model for if we are not sure of the algorithm efficiency, because when we are unsure, we can show the prototype to the user and then they can confirm it, either it is the algorithm they want or not. So that's why we can use prototype if we are unsure of the algorithm that we should implement in our future software. Yes, human computer interaction. Yes, it is interaction, not interface, I think. HCI, human computer interaction. Yes, good. You all help me. Okay, it is the study of how human and computer should interact to each other, right? Okay, so when you are not sure about how a computer or a human should react or should use the system, so you can use prototyping. Okay, so that you can clear about how the user should use your software. Okay, so maybe your client actually needs not only a software that they can access through your laptop, but maybe they need something that need to be installed or as a mobile app. Okay, so maybe they need something a mobile app, not only a laptop or computer. Desktop based application. So that is what it says here. HCI. Unsure of the HCI. How the client and the software should work together later. Okay, so if you if you are not sure about that, then you can use a prototype. Okay, so we proceed to the third model, which is rapid application development. So far so good with the prototype, evolutionary and web prototyping. So far so good. Can give me raise hand if good. Okay. How about Lim? So far so good, Lim? Oh, raise already. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I think before we proceed to the third model, I can give you 4 minutes rest. We meet again at 3:45. Okay? We meet again at 3:45. Okay, so it's 3:45 already. So we will proceed to our third software process model, which is Rapid Application Development or RAD. Is everybody here? Raise hand, please. Yeah. Okay. So we proceed lah. So RAD is stand for Rapid Application Development, which is an incremental software development process model that emphasize an extremely short development cycle. So, because of its name is rapid, so meaning it's short time lah. Okay, so these are the activity inside the RAD model. Okay, so first is business modeling, data modeling, like entity relationship database (ERD), and then process modeling like DFD, flowchart. DFD is data flow diagram, and then application generation, testing, and turnover. Okay, so if you all see here, business modeling is actually referring to the first, if you remember previously, there are software requirement, the four fundamental activity in software development, which is there are four. First is the software requirement. After that, software development. After that, software validation, and then so after that, software evolution. You remember last time there are like a cup, and then there are four button, four circle, and there are four items inside it. Previously in our, still in this uh, slide, but in our previous slide. Okay, so business modeling is actually referring to the process that is in software requirement, meaning where you are when you are collecting all of the requirement. After that, data modeling is the process of designing and analyzing. Analyzing first and then designing lah actually. Analyzing and designing the requirement that you get from the business modeling. So after that, the process modeling. Process modeling is the implementation phase lah, or the software implementation, meaning the coding lah, software development phase. After that, the application generation is the application generation is the software development. And then the process modeling is the process of designing the flow of the system. The data modeling is designing your database. Okay, so after that, testing and turnover. So this is the process of validating and evolving. Evolving meaning turnover meaning you give to your client. So it is inside the evolving phase. Okay, so these are the diagram for the RAD. So you all can be clear about this process if you can see this diagram. So this RAD will make your system modularized. Okay, so listen up. This is not in the slide. RAD model will make your system into modularized. Okay, so it will divide your system to a module, M-O-D-U-L-E, to a module, bukan model. So RAD model will make your system, your future system, the system that you want to develop into a module. Different module lah. Depends on how big your system is. After that, after it is divided into different module, the process or the RAD model will require you to assign each module one team. Each module one team. Okay. So each of the team will proceed with their module parallelly or concurrently. Okay, they will start their process concurrently. Okay, so for example, our previous example, previously I said when you have an inventory system, and in that system there are three modules: inventory module, searching module, and then reporting module. So just imagine that all of that module will be assigned. So for example, inventory module will be assigned to team 1, reporting module will be assigned to team 2, and then searching module will be assigned to team 3. Okay, so after that, your boss said that, okay, I want this project start at week 1. Okay, so, I want this project, or the first phase of development should finish in week 1. Okay, so after that, all of this team will start or will finish their business modeling phase in week 1. So concurrently, all of this team will start doing their business modeling phase in the week 1. So that is what it means by working in parallel or working concurrently. Okay? Understand this RAD module? Model.
Right.
Okay. So each of the team will be given the same time to finish their module. Okay, so like it says here, so it is depends on your boss how many days or months your boss wants this system to be finished. Not your boss lah, your client lah usually. But usually your client, if they give you 3 months, your boss will give you 2 months. Because for the 1 month will be for some unforeseen activity. Okay, so it is for risk management lah, so that you will have time to fix your system if there are anything that is not going according to the plan. Okay, so I hope you can understand this. Okay, so when to use the RAD model is when the user requirements are well known. Okay, so this is also similar. It is more or less similar with the waterfall. Okay, so when the user requirements are well known, project scope is well defined. Okay, so because you cannot divide your module, your system into different modules if you don't really understand about the project scope. And then the higher user involvement. Okay, so because this RAD model is designed to be fast development, so that's why we need high user involvement. But the weakness of this model is first, a lot of resources. Why? Because you need a lot of people to do the system, because you will need to divide them into different team, right? And then you want it to be finished in short time. So of course you will need a lot of software engineer. After that, the commitment. Each of the person that involved in the development should have high commitment, because at the end, after each of the team finish their module, there will be one specific time to do the integration. Okay, so if among the 3 team, one team is delayed, still not finish their punya module. Okay, so the other team need to wait for that left behind team to finish their module. So that's why it says it needs a high commitment, need commitment from each of the teams so that their system can be run or can be developed in the specified time. So each of the software engineer need to have a good commitment so that all of the schedule or the integration time will not be delayed because of their lateness. Okay, so you also need to modularize your system. If your system don't have module, then it is hard to give it is hard to separate, or it is hard to follow this model, because this model needs to be require your system to be modularized so that a lot of people can do it concurrently. So if you don't have a modularized system, or your system doesn't meant to be modularized, so you cannot use this RAD model. Okay, so this is not for high technical risk project, because the purpose or the goal for this model is to develop the system shortly. Okay, shortly. So as we can understand, something that you can develop in a short time usually will not have a good will not have enough time to do a quality assurance lah, change, and even the change management also cannot be done clearly or properly. Okay, so all of the quality assurance process cannot be done correctly. So that's why it is not for high technical risk project. Okay, so these are the differentiation between waterfall, prototyping, and RAD, the software model that we have learned so far. Okay, so I want to ask lah, waterfall, about the stuff, eh? How about this waterfall? Is the stuff needed to be a lot, or human resource lah for the waterfall? Uh, okay, so later because it will take a lot of time. So I will post this in our Google Classroom later. So you all need to answer this lah. So later I will ask during the practical time. Okay, so we proceed to the evolutionary software process model. This is the fourth model. So as you can see, based on its name, it is evolution, meaning from it can evolve. So no, sorry. It can evolve. It can evolve. Okay, so like a human evolve. This one is not correct lah. From the monkey to the human, no lah. This is, I think, the old. But this is the evolution from the start from the apa ni, merangkak, and then I mean the best way of the best example of evolving is a baby lah. Okay, from can cry from someone that cannot even see the light, and then you can talk already, and then you can eat, and then you can throw tantrum. Then after that, you learn about ABC. Okay, so we become better and better every day lah. Okay, so that is what is evolution. Okay, so evolutionary software process, do, don't confuse this with the evolution prototyping. That is different. Evolution prototyping also, yes, also do evolve, but this one is different from that. Okay, so this is another software process model. So evolutionary prototyping is also evolved, but it is under the prototyping. Okay, so don't confuse about that. So evolutionary software process model develop the initial implementation. Okay, so after that, it will be exposed to the client for the user command, for the client command, and then we will come out with the refined version based on the user command. Okay, so this process will be repeating until we can get the final version. Okay, so that is the common concept of evolutionary software process model. And under this process model, there are two examples, which is incremental model and spiral. But these two have a common process, which is, like I said just now, this one. Evolutionary software process model will have a version, and then will be exposed to user command, and then the command will the user will comment, and then this process will be repetitive. Okay, so this concept will be implemented in these two example. Actually, there are a lot of any other example, but these are the two example that is commonly used. Okay, so incremental model and spiral model. Okay, so this is the incremental model, the first example of the evolutionary software process model, which is incremental model. So in this process, it will have different increment. First increment will deliver the first draft to the client. Okay, so the process will be, each of the increment will have the same process, but the first increment will develop the first version of the system. Okay, so for example, you develop the most useful module first in the first increment. Okay, so like my example just now, which is the retail inventory system. So there are three modules, right? Inventory, reporting, and searching. Okay, so in this incremental model, you will develop the most useful module first. Okay, so among those three modules that I said just now, inventory, reporting, and searching module, which is the most useful module that should be developed first? What do you guys think? Which module? Inventory. Okay, Noel said inventory. Others? Alvin, which module do you think is the most useful module among the three modules: inventory, reporting, and searching? Okay, Farah said also inventory module. I want to ask Elvin. Oh, Lynn. Inventory equal to foundation. Yes, Lynn. Elvin? Okay, inventory searching. The second is um reporting. Reporting module. So which okay, yes. Okay, correct. Like what Lim said, and then Farah and Noel said. Inventory is the foundation of the system. So that's why in this, when you are using this incremental model, you start with the most useful module first. Okay, so in this case is the inventory module. Okay, so the first version, you will develop the inventory module first. Okay, so don't, this is not RAD. RAD we will develop and different person will do the each of the module. But this is incremental module. Just assume that there are only one team. Okay, so the team will first do the inventory module first. Okay, so then they will deliver the first module as the first version. After that, in the increment 2, they will still do the process, the same process that is start from analysis and then end with the test. But they will do with the second priority module lah. So in this case, maybe searching or reporting, whichever that the company thinks it is should be the second lah. Okay, so maybe the second version is the inventory module plus the reporting module, and then the increment 3, maybe they will incorporate the searching module. So in version 3, they already inventory, reporting, and searching. So increment 4, maybe if you have any other functions lah. Okay, so that is the incremental model. Okay, so how it works, like what I said just now. Okay, so they deliver the core product function or feature at the first increment version and deliver the supplement product function or features in the next increment or version. So this is what I said just now. The most useful or the core product or the core function of the system should be delivered in the first increment or in the first version. Okay, so the advantage of this is useful if stuff in and unavailable. Okay, so if you don't have a lot of stuff, so this is what you should, this model is what you should implement. Okay, so when you are presenting the schedule to the client, so at least they see that, okay, for the first 2 weeks, we will come out with the first module. And then after that, we will come out with the second. And then after that, the rest lah. Okay, so if you don't have letter, if maybe if you are having your own company, so and you don't have enough staff, so you can use this model. Okay, so it can be planned to manage the technical risk. Okay, so you can still manage your technical risk lah when you are implementing this model because you have time. Okay, so what is the main difference between incremental model and RAD model? Okay, so I meant to ask you all, but the answer is already here, so it's okay lah. Okay, so if you can see, RAD and incremental model is more or less like similar, right? But RAD model, it needs a lot of team to create a module by module. incremental module, it only needs one team, but it will release the system version by version. Okay, so when do you use the incremental model? This one is the questions lah. When do you use the incremental model? I think there's already answer in the previous slide. What do you guys think? When we can use the incremental model?
We got time to do.
We got time to do. Yes. Yes. Okay. So first, I agree with Kelvin. When the time is not the constraint. Okay. When the time is not the constraint, and when your staff is not, it's not not much. Okay. When you don't have enough staff. So yes. Okay. So that is two feature of the system that you can develop using incremental model. So the other feature, you all can search the internet and do your own searching about that. Okay, so two, when the time is not the constraint, meaning you can develop your system in a long time, and when you don't have enough staff. Okay, so after that, we go to the spiral model. Okay, so this spiral model, I think it is a little bit confusing. Not confusing lah. Complicated. Okay. Before we proceed. Okay, so the main difference between this spiral and the previous model that we have learned is spiral model have one feature that is not really available in the previous model, which is the risk analysis. Okay, so a spiral model, it will be actually implementing risk analysis every time the process, every time in one circle. Okay, so when you start with, you start with the communication first. If you all can see here, it starts here at the communication. So you start with the communication with the client. After that, you will do, in this area, you will do planning, estimation, scheduling, and plus risk analysis, which is, it is not in the previous model previously. So risk analysis is the compulsory in a spiral model. So every time you have done with the communication, you collect the requirement, and then you, after that, you do the planning, estimation, and scheduling, plus risk analysis. Okay, so I'm now only talking about the first cycle here. Okay, so after that, you do the modeling and analysis and design in this phase. After that, you will do the construction code and test, meaning you to develop the software in here. After that, you do the deployment. After that, for another version, you will start the process again and again. Okay, so it will start with communication first. Okay, can understand? So, maybe I have read some notes. Okay, I can find my notes. Okay, so understand this. You start with communication and ends with deployment and delivery. Okay, but all of the process previously will be add one more process, which is risk analysis. So one cycle meaning to finish one module or one one module or one system. After that, if your system still not finished, you still need to add any other module, then you can start again, but start with the communication first. Okay, so start with the communication for the second module, and then you will go through the analysis again, and then go to the modeling again, go to the implementation again, and then go to deployment again. So this will be repeating until all of the module inside the system is finished, completed. Okay? Okay kah?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is also under evolutionary software process. So remember, evolutionary software process are divided by two, which is incremental model and spiral. But in spiral model, what makes it different from the previous incremental or previous model is it has risk analysis. It is compulsory to do the risk analysis. And this will be increment based on the function or module inside the system. Okay, so the first cycle is for one module, and then the second cycle is for the second module. So it is like the incremental previously lah. Okay. Okay, so the example here, when you do the communication, so start with you collecting the requirement through this communication. After that, you will do the planning. So you will also do the estimation of how many time that you need and cost and programmer or human resource that you will need, and then what hardware or what software or maybe third party software that you will need. So that is all happen in this area. After that, scheduling lah. When to finish, when to deliver. After that, risk analysis. Okay, so the risk analysis here is you will think about whatever risk that may be found in implementing the first module. Okay, so maybe you don't have maybe you have incomplete user requirement. So in this phase, you will step what is the plan B that you can do if you still cannot get the complete requirement from the user. Okay, so maybe your plan is to implement the incomplete requirement at the next phase. Okay, so that is what you do in this risk analysis lah. After that, you go to the modeling. Okay, so this modeling in this time you will need to analyze all of the fact that you have gathered during the communication. You do analysis and design. After that, you do the implementation. And then in this phase also, you need to document the user requirement. After that, you do the deployment. Okay, you can present it to the user. Okay, so after that, you start again. You start again for the next requirement or for the next module. Okay, so it will be repeating, but with the better, maybe after you do the risk analysis here at the first cycle, in the second cycle you make it you make the all of the unanswerable questions in the first cycle, you make all of the unanswerable question in the first cycle to be clear in the second cycle. Okay, so maybe you will need to do some adjustment about the time and cost, and then all of this process will be repeated. Okay, so after that, mm, 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 ah, so what you have seen just now is actually the suggested activity that you can do during the if you are implementing spiral model. Okay, so these are the advantage. Like I said, unlike the other software process model, this spiral model has risk management. So in this risk management, you can find out about the technical risk, management risk. Okay, so when do you use spiral model? When do you use spiral model? Anybody can answer?
Got time to do.
Ada?
Got time.
Got time? Um, okay, so but actually this spiral, it didn't tell you either it is in short time or it can be done in long time lah, right? Okay, so we are not very sure either we can use this for if we have a lot of time. But if we see from the activity inside the spiral model, so I think, yeah, we need a lot of time to do this because we need to do a risk analysis. Oh, okay, okay. Ferro said he has no electricity. Okay. Okay, so Lim said large project. Okay. And then large project. When modification are frequent, yes. Russell said when modification are frequent, yes, it is correct. So when there are modifications, when there are a lot of modifications, so we can do this spiral model because each of the this process is really flexible for requirement, because if you cannot implement the requirement in the first cycle, you can do it in the second cycle. Okay, so yes, Lim said large project. Okay, so I can relate the large project with the high risk project. I mean, I can say that this model is really suitable for high risk project because it has risk management. Okay, so that is what makes this model is special because it has risk management. Okay, so if we have a high risk project, like a project that frequently have changes. Okay, so that is also can be unknown in early stage. What if the system requirement is unknown in early stage? Yes, I think we still can use spiral model because if you can see in the model, we do have a communication here. Okay, so but if we don't, if we still don't know what the requirement, even though we have already communicated with the user, there are risk analysis here. Okay, so if you can see here just now, the first cycle, if you don't know or if you have, the risk here is incomplete requirement. Okay, so if you can see here just now, yeah, there's a lot of process. See, so for the first cycle here, after you do the communication, and then when you are in the stage of planning, you still get, or you still, when during you do the analysis, you still found that the requirement from the user is still incomplete. But no problem, because you can still do the requirement at the second cycle. Okay, Noel? Okay. So another additional info is for a high risk system, type of system, medium to high risk project. Okay, so high risk, what is the definition of high risk project? For me, maybe a project that has a lot of changes or the requirement is not fixed. Okay, so that is also considered as a high risk project, or a very expensive project. So because it is high risk, if you cannot deliver all of the requirements as the user wants, then the risk there is for you to pay a lot of money to them lah. Okay, so that is also high risk lah for me. So what do you guys think? What is the definition of the high risk project? For me, maybe a lot of changes project, and then a very expensive project. So that can be under high risk lah for me. What do you guys think? What is the high risk project? From your opinion, not much experience in such project. I think that is the risk of the company lah, not that project. I mean, in terms of the project. I mean, what Elvin said is the risk from the software company. So what do you guys think? The project from your client, how do you define that the project is high risk or not? Okay, so imagine you have one client, they have one system. What is the feature of the system that your client give you, I mean from your client, that you think you can consider it as a high risk? You can Google also. Customer requirement not consistent. Yes. Okay, so yes, a lot of you already answered. Not much experience in such project. Itu Elvin. If technology, yes, Noel. If the technology that is used in the system is something that yang selalu changing, frequently change technology. Okay, so that is also high risk system. Yes, can need to replace existing system. Okay, so if you think the system, the system that you are going to be you are going to build in maybe 2 or 3 years more, it 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 can be changed again. So it is also high risk. Making game. Why do you think, Kelvin, making game is a high risk project? Okay, so Lim said customer requirement not consistent. Okay, yeah. So this is I agree lah, because it is similar with my opinion previously. Kelvin, why do you think making games is high risk? Because not every game that you made can be likable by all of the competition too big. Yes. Yes, because game is something that is frequently changed. Yes, so that's why making game also is a big, it has high risk. Okay, so we have stopped at the spiral model. Next week, we will learn about the sixth process model, which is component based. This one. Component based process model. And so we will learn about this later. Okay, so after this, we will go to the agile development. Okay, so in the agile, there are various methods, like I told Noel previously. There's XP, there's, I forgot already, but XP lah, the most famous one for agile development. Okay, so we will learn that later. Okay, so do you guys have any questions?
No.
Okay, so if no, then we can dismiss our class now.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Okay, bye everyone.